Everyone wants to contribute something significant to the world, to play a meaningful part in the cosmic symphony we call life. And this desire is a basic component of what it means to be human. We yearn to expand beyond our limited sphere of existence and become a part of something meaningful, something infinitely greater than ourselves. And ego and fame aside, this yearning, it stems from a deep spiritual place, an inner knowledge that at root, we in fact are part of something infinitely greater than ourselves. Each one of us is an integral piece in a collective whole that transcends the sum of its parts. And the question in life is not whether we wish to accomplish something significant with the life we've been given. The question is how. How can I become more self-aware, more disciplined, more caring, more successful? This is the human saga, a tale of struggle and progress, setback and evolution. And this theme is potently expressed in this week's Parsha, Acharei. Acharei begins by describing Aaron HaKohen's Yom Kippur Avoda, his divine service on the Day of Atonement. Enigmatically, Hashem commands Aaron to first bring a korban, a sacrifice, to atone for his own sins, and only afterwards to bring the korban to atone for the sins of the Jewish people as a whole. Now, this appears antithetical to Aaron's role as spiritual leader of the Jewish people. A leader is called upon to be selflessly, unequivocally devoted to his people, putting their needs before his or her own. Why then does Aaron place his own needs before those of the people? What deep lesson is he intending to teach us? So, this very same issue is at the root of a discussion that takes place in the Gemara. The rabbis of the Talmud in Bava Metzia, Daf Samach Beis Amud Aleph, discuss a case of two men stranded in a desert with a single flask of water between them, belonging to one of the two men. Now, if the owner of the flask drinks the water, he can survive long enough to make it safely back to civilization. If he shares his water, though, both men will die. So the initial opinion, as quoted in the Gemara, was that the man must share his water. And this opinion stood until Rabbi Akiva came along and contested it, stating that chayecha kodmin, your life comes first. And therefore, the owner of the water must save his own life at the expense of his friends. And although the statement of Rabbi Akiva appears logically justifiable, it is shocking in that it seems to completely contradict another famous statement of Rabbi Akiva. One of Rabbi Akiva's most famous statements and principles is V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, ze klal gadol b'Torah, which means love your friend as you love yourself. This is the most foundational principle in the Torah. So if this statement is true, and if it represents Rabbi Akiva's view, then how can he say chayecha kodmin, that you should prioritize your own life? Is this not a clear and complete contradiction to loving your friend as yourself? To understand Rabbi Akiva's opinion and the meaning behind the order of Aaron's sacrifices, we have to first establish a fundamental prerequisite and requirement for giving. In order to give, you must first have that which you want to give. In order to contribute, you must first build something worth contributing. In order to love others, you must first love yourself. The first step of life is building internally, developing your own skills and gifts. This means building your mind and inner world, developing your beliefs and convictions, your understanding of Hashem and His Torah. But simultaneously, we must build our midos, our character traits, and our personality. We have to work on our self-discipline and craft the ideal lifestyle to maximize our potential in this world. Only then is it possible to expand outwards and contribute to Klal Yisrael and the world as a whole. And many people have an incredible desire to give, but nothing to actually contribute. It's wonderful to strongly wish to give $1 million to tzedakah, to charity, but if you have no money, that wish isn't very helpful. It's marvelous to want to be a role model and a teacher, but if you possess no knowledge nor character traits that should be modeled, what good is that? Of course, the desire itself is praiseworthy, but in reality, you can't contribute anything unless you have something to give. And the same goes for marriage. My wife and I often discuss how marriage can only be as great as the two spouses themselves. The marriage is the result of what each spouse invests into and contributes to the marriage. Each spouse expands themselves outwards by giving themselves into the relationship. But if neither has anything to give, what kind of marriage would that be? So Rabbi Akiva's principles in no way contradict each other. Chayecha Kodman isn't a contradiction to V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, it's a prerequisite. Only if you first invest in yourself can you then expand outwards and give to others. It's only once you first embrace yourself and discover your true potential that you can then fall in love with yourself. And it's only after you love yourself that you can then love someone else. Chayecha Kodman is the first step of fulfilling V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. So investing in yourself is the most selfless form of selfishness and becomes the very essence of giving itself. And we can now explain Aaron's peculiar avoda. As a matter of fact, by now it should appear self-evident. A leader must always work from the inside out. First, develop yourself internally and only then expand outwards. Before Aaron could help Klal Yisrael, he had to first work on his own personal connection with Hashem. Only after bringing a korban for his own personal avoda was Aaron then able to expand outwards and help all of Klal Yisrael build their connection with Hashem. Now, it is important to note that when we consider self-focused investment, we generally think of those in their teens and 20s, who are still in school or at the beginning of their careers, focused on learning and investing in themselves as much as possible. However, when framed correctly, investment is an imperative at every age. In order to give, we must first invest in ourselves. Therefore, at all stages of life, we must balance these two principles, investing and contributing. Sometimes there may be more time and energy spent on investment, and sometimes more on contribution, but they must always remain partners in our approach to life. It's never too late to grow, and it's never too early to contribute. The rare skill is knowing how to create the ideal balance between the two, while still knowing when to shift that balance one way or another. May we be inspired to endlessly invest in ourselves while realizing that everything we invest into me will ultimately be contributed into we.